And so I asked myself, what would I do in that case? And I couldn't come up with a good answer because they were put in a situation where there was no right answer, where anything they did led to tragic circumstances. You see a woman and a child in a car driving towards you. You're at a checkpoint. You're a soldier. Your job is to stop and search cars. And this woman is driving towards you, a child beside her in the seat, and she's coming fast. And you're yelling for her to stop, and she's not stopping. Now, 2 weeks ago, at that same checkpoint, a woman came driving up. She didn't stop. Her buddies yelled for her to stop. She didn't. She pulled up. She pulled a switch. 5 people are dead, and 4 of them were your friends. Now, today, you're there, and you see that woman coming towards you with that child, and you know it's probably just a mistake. You know she's just afraid. You know she doesn't know what to do. She's confused. But you have 4 of your friends with you. And what do? You have to make a decision in a split second. And these men fire. And they stop the car. Then they go over and find out there was no bomb. And I ask myself, what would I do? There's no right answer there. Do you sacrifice your friends? Do you sacrifice this woman? How do you live with that? These are good men and women. These are brave men and women who are sending to Iraq, much braver than I am. These are people who want to be heroes. And they're sent there into an impossible situation, a corrupt situation where there is no good answer. And they're being haunted by this. And so it's easy for me to empathize with that. Anyone can empathize with that. We just have to, in America, if we saw, and I'm sorry, it's a long answer, but if we saw the faces of the dead that our troops have to see every day, if we saw their faces on the TV, that little girl with her face blown off, that man cut in half trying to save his child, if every night on our news we saw the same things our troops saw, then we would have a right and we'd have the responsibility to say, yes, this is a just war, and it's worth it, or no, it's not. But we're not getting that. Our media's not getting that, so it's up to us, the artists, to ask these hard questions. Okay. It didn't matter a damn to me what the politics of the actors were. I didn't really care. I didn't know what Tommy Lee Jones' politics were. I sort of guessed what Charlize's were. I knew what Susan's were. I didn't care. I wanted to put good actors in these roles. I did put a lot of young Iraqi vets in this movie, and some of them believe in this war, and some of them don't believe in this war. It's totally fine. It wasn't a matter of belief. I wanted to tell the truth of what's happening, and say it's not a democratic, it's not the Democrats against Republicans, it's not smart Democrats against bad Republicans. All of our politicians have sold us out. We know that. They all voted for this. They all brought us into this. And we went in with our eyes open, even though we pretended they were shut. I knew I wanted to use a story from the Bible because I knew that Hank would probably read the Bible. He wasn't an overly religious man, but he probably would read it. And so I went searching. And then I remembered the story of David and Goliath. And I thought, I cannot think of a story that typifies bravery more. Here you have a young boy, not much older than my son, who comes into this camp knowing nothing of what's going on, selling bread. And it's a camp where this Goliath, this giant, has been coming into the valley every day for 40 days and challenging the king's warriors to fight. And none of his strongest, best trained warriors will fight. And this boy says, I'll fight Goliath. And the king says, okay. And he puts this boy in his own armor. And the armor is so big it falls right off him. And so David just looks around and finds 5 stones. And goes out into this valley with that in his sling to face this monster. And Goliath comes charging. And this boy stands his ground. He doesn't run. I would have run. And he lets the monster get close enough until he can hurl a stone. And you know something about throwing rocks. You have to be really close to be able to strike someone with any force. And he threw this rock at him square in the head, and he killed him. And I thought, brave, just like our men and women. So brave to go there to do what they think is right. But then I thought, what kind of a king sends a boy to fight a giant that his bravest and strongest warriors won't fight? How corrupt can that be? I started this process in 2003 and then early 2004. It takes 3 years to make a movie. So, at least, sometimes 4. So in this case, if I could have started this film before the war, I would have. But there was no war. So I thought it very important at the time to ask these questions, largely because there's a big difference between now and the Vietnam War. At that time, we had very brave journalists who were out in the field, who were reporting back, and we had networks and newspapers that would report what they said and show the pictures. We don't have that anymore. We have a media that is cowed by the administration, that believes patriotism is just mimicking what the president and the vice president and his administration say, and that they believe what he said, I think, that it's unpatriotic to question this, and believe it is would be inappropriate to show us the faces of the dead. I tell stories about personal responsibility, and I think that's what I did with Crash, and that's what I did here. I think that from the personal, we can become political. And so it was important to me to tell this through the eyes of an American who was very proud of his country, who was the style of kind of American who we could look at and go, oh yes, I know that man. I may not agree with his politics, but he's a proud man. He knows right from wrong. He's a moral man. He's a man who doesn't suffer fools. And it meant a few words. And then take this man along this journey where he has to question everything he knows. And of course, to me, that represents us. Our one sin as Americans is pride. You know, not one sin. Our greatest sin is pride. We believe we know right from wrong. So my duty as a filmmaker is to engage you, is to bring you in and go, you know what, I'll get comfortable. I'm not going to point the finger at anyone here. I'm pointing the finger at myself if no one else. And then slowly let you look at your own responsibility in this. And if everyone looks at their own responsibility, we don't have to point the finger at George Bush, do we? We point the finger at ourselves. We did this. I did this. You know, I was out marching against the war in the very beginning, but I didn't do enough, obviously, to stop this, did I? You know, and so none of us did. So I like stories with personal responsibility, and from there, let people get their own answers. Because George Bush and his group wouldn't be able to sell this war so easily unless Americans really believed we knew right from wrong in our hearts. We bought this story very easily. The Democrats bought it. The Republicans bought it. When I started writing this film, George Bush had a 90% approval rating, the highest in history. So I wasn't aiming this film at George Bush. That's too easy. I was aiming at us, at our hearts and our souls, and why it's so easy for us to believe that we know better than everyone else, that we should rush to war as a solution. That's the real problem, I think. George Bush will come and go. I've been bumping into Charlize doing all the, we were not fortunate enough to get nominated for some awards, and I'd bump into her from time to time and say, I've got this story I'm working on, I'd love to give to you. And she got tired of me telling her that, and finally just said, send me the damn script when it's done. And so I did. I mailed it from, or emailed it from Italy on a Wednesday. It said, please read the script. She read it Wednesday night, called me Thursday morning. I said, I'm in. And I said, Charlize, you know it's a passion project. You know, there's no money in this. She said, I'm in. And then I called up Tommy Lee Jones as representatives on a Friday. Actually, I had Larry do it. And he sent them the script over the weekend, and they said, I'm in. And it was, that was easy. And then I heard later on that someone said, you know, you might be able to get Susan Sarandon for this. And I said, Susan Sarandon, there's no role in this movie for Susan Sarandon. And they said, and so I sent her the script anyway. She said, well, I love it, but there's no role. I said, I know, I'm really sorry. So I wrote a couple more scenes for her and sent her. She said, yeah, I'll do that. So it was simple, it was easy. It was lovely to work with artists who can really express so much with so little. And that's what I needed in here. I needed actors who could give me everything without dialogue.